Onwards, our assembly will be 30 minutes, maybe less. So with that, let's at least start, and then we'll get into it. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarva Karyeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. We just did Saraswati, right?
So close the door.
Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Reva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sometimes that autopilot. So, because this is my first time here at Saket, I thought I'd spend just today introducing myself, and then afterwards I do want to talk to you about the upcoming events and just generally the bhava and thinking we have behind these events, and really encourage you to come. And then I have to finish the rules. I forgot about that, so we'll go through that at the end. So my name is Brahmacharini Divya, and I grew up in the US, but I was born in India. I was born in Bangalore, so my family, we speak Kannada at home. And I was about maybe 5 or 6 when I came to the US, and I grew up in New Jersey. So Swami Shantananji was our Swamiji. At that point, he was just Swamiji, right? It's later on that I discovered that he's like the head of Chinmay Mission West, and he's got such a great position. I didn't realize that, but growing up in Bala Vihar, he was just our Swamiji. So, but even when joining Bala Vihar, I was not a kindergarten and up. I joined Bala Vihar. I didn't even know about Chinmay Mission until I was in high school. So somewhere between 8th grade, 9th grade is when I joined, and the only reason we joined was because my mom got dragged into a Devi group by a friend of hers. So, just by word of mouth, we kind of got introduced to it. And growing up at home, being in the US, I only knew about Hinduism as my parents exposed me to it. So osmosis of Hinduism is obviously far less here in the US compared to India, where every other corner you have a temple, every other, just the way we live in India, we are Hindus by nature. So here, when I'm growing up, all I was exposed to was every Tuesdays we'd go to Durga temple and chant Hanuman Chalisa and then come back. Because in that particular temple they had all of the murtis, and Tuesdays was the Hanuman Chalisa day. So coming into Bala Vihar for the first time in high school, and the text we were taking was Bhagavad Gita. So suddenly I was overwhelmed with oh, we have all of this in our Sanatana Dharma? I didn't even know the difference between Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. I thought they were the same thing. So having exposure to the vast knowledge systems that we have in our Sanatana Dharma was really the first time I was oh, we have a lot. This is worth studying. This is worth getting to know, because a lot of times when we go through the mundane routines of our life, we have those existential questions. We just bury it underneath and be it doesn't matter right now. I have other things to focus on, but it nags us a little bit on the bottom. So one of the analogies, I was just having a conversation with someone the other day, and we were talking about exercising, being on a diet and going to the gym, all of that becomes a routine. And we were talking about, where can I get that consistency from? Where can I, really stick to this? Where does that come from? How come some people are amazing marathon, runners because they picked it up late in life? How does that work? And then we realized that the mechanics of becoming healthy, mechanics of having a diet and regular exercise, it will be very mundane, very monotonous. But unless we have the true reasons of why, and I believe the why, it won't fuel that energy to stick to the routines. So I found that as a really nice analogy for when it comes to our own practices in Sanatana Dharma. That my day-to-day routines, my karmas that I perform are very monotonous, right? I pretty much know what I will be doing 90% of the time, 7 days a week. But there are going to be points where I start questioning why. Where am I going with all of this? Where am I leading? So those existential questions will always be there underneath. And unless I spend time to actually answer those questions, that monotony of life will overwhelm me at some point. So unless I keep myself inspired on the whys and the hows, it won't make a difference in what I already have to do. My life won't change on the inside, my life will change from the inside. Sorry, did I miss that up? My life won't change from the outside, but my life will change on the inside when I really reconnect with these higher level questions. And when I was first exposed to all this, I realized this is the source of where those answers will come from. Not necessarily what my parents told me, because that's also limited. It's not necessarily from Western philosophy, because that's its own culture. There's so many differences between what I know as part of our tradition versus what I hear growing up in the US, and that was always a conflict growing up here. So I realized really going into Shastras, seeing what it has to say really makes a big difference. So by the end of high school and in the beginning of my college years, what I ended up finding physically in my own room was I had 2 bookshelves on the wall, like one on this side and one on this side. Here, all of these school books I had and college textbooks and whatever other stuff ended up accumulating on this side. And I happened to find that all of my Chinmay Mission books, and I would visit Swami Vivekanandaji's ashram, Ramakrishna Mission ashram, and they had all these like little tiny booklets, right? Like how to be a student life, or, Karma Yoga, what is it all about? Little tidbits. And I ended up collecting so many of these books. And I say collecting because I'm not that studious. They collected dust for a while. But it was always there. It's like an altar, right? If it's there in the corner of your eye, somehow you're still connected to it. In the same way, this books of knowledge was there in my room. And of course, college, going from high school to college, it's the freedom that we don't realize the responsibilities come with it. What is it? With great power comes great responsibility. College is that. So of course, I finished Bala Vihar, and just like every other Bala Vihar 12th grader, I was done with Chinmay Mission. I don't have to get up at Sunday mornings. I don't have to be pushed around by my parents saying, get up, get up, get up. But that also meant, once I got to college, I had to self-discipline. And I didn't know that until 2 years later, until I started to see myself struggle with my own routines. And that's when those questions really started to come back up again. Like, why am I doing this? What is it all for? Is it just because my parents tell me to? What is it that I want to do? That self-discovery, introspection really kicked in at that point. Then I found myself, because it was always in that corner of my room, I found myself turning to it, and I distinctly remember there was one book called Student Life from Vivekanandaji's ashram. It's a thin book, so I said I can handle this, and I ended up reading it twice. And it talked about simple disciplines like waking up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. early in the morning, showering in the morning, why is that important? Making your bed, why is that important? Doing puja, why is that important? How to study, why is it that I shouldn't sleep on the bed and like lounge around with my book and study? Why is it that I need a certain environment? Like minute details on how to live like a student, it was outlined there. It is later, now that I've gone through the Vedanta course, I look back, those are all the sadhanas that were given, but put in such a way that I could practice it in my day-to-day life. And so that's when I discovered that Vedanta and Shastras is not like a science, biology, math, or any other kind of subject we learn in school. There we learn facts. There we learn logic, and it stays there. But with Vedanta and Shastra, the meaning and import of what's being given does not fructify until I apply myself and actually live it. When they say discipline is beneficial, I can read it, but I won't know until I actually put myself through it. So college years was really when I started to turn towards it and really start experimenting with applying myself with that. And it happened to be in that time frame, that mindset where I was, that opportunity landed in front of me. This is called the Youth Empowerment Program, YUP course. So oftentimes there's a joke. Are you going to YUP? YUP. So Youth Empowerment Program, and it was designed by Swami Sarvesharanji, who brought it from India, and to re-inspire and help the youth from ages 18 to 28. That age group is called as chicks, not, the chicken chicks. It's an acronym for Chinmaya Yuva Kendra, CHYK, Chinmaya Yuva Kendra. So this program was dedicated for them. I fell in that category. And again, this was by happenstance. I had no idea who Swami Sarveshanji was. I had no idea what chick was. I had no idea what this was all designed for. The only reason I found this was because my friend told me she was spending a summer in California, and I said, I have nothing better to do, and I want to go see California. So I read through it, realized that, okay, this is another exposure to Vedanta. They have a residential in Piercy, California is where I learned. So I said, all right, this sounds pretty cool. Let me give it a shot. So I wrote an essay, submitted it the day before the application closed, and within a week I found myself flying all the way to California for the first time outside of New Jersey. So there it was a spectacular experience because our routine started at 5:30 in the morning, which I'd probably never done on my own until, for one or two reasons. But for 2 months, 5:30 in the morning, we were exposed to Sanskritam, Vedic chanting. Swamiji would give satsangs twice a day, and all of the other chicks that were there, they would lead workshops. So this was a really interesting environment to really get to know Vedanta in a whole different way. And our curriculum started from the basics, like Bhaja Govindam, Sadhana Panchakam, Tattva Bodha, which is like the book of definitions. And we would go through some of the chapters in Bhagavad Gita that really applied to what we were looking for as youths. Like, we're ready to go and work, right? The dynamic youth is how Puja Gurudev described us. So it really transformed that there's so much here, and I really should apply myself the way Sanatana Dharma has asked us to live. But it's one thing to read and hear Shastra, and it's a whole different thing to see it lived by someone. So really the most impact and inspiration I got was by getting to know who Swami Sarveshanji was. And he was the first one that I really got to spend that much time with and to really observe the way they lived this lifestyle. And one of the impressions I got from him was seeing how thorough and present he was in his work. No matter what came across his present moment, across his desk, that's the space of present moment, whether it's dealing with us naughty kids that don't know how to work in the kitchen, being there with us to show us how to peel an apple, to climbing the trees like we were monkeys, swimming around in that river, and connecting with us. We had one-on-one sessions with him. So he would ask us what's going on in our life and give us guidance to really navigate the deeper ways of answering the issues that we had. Not just, one-off solutions, but really for self-development. And the best part was watching his seva bhava. No matter what happened, he would do it with such thoroughness, thus so much accuracy and so much comprehensiveness. And once he's done, it was done. He would move on to the next one. As things are, he would take it, as it is, so it is. And it was so nice to see Vedanta being lived by a person. The kind of level that someone can reach, the capacity and success that someone can reach by going back to the basics of what Sanatana Dharma has. I saw that in Swamiji and said, this really has some substance here. So that really got me thinking about what I wanted to going forward. And of course I had 2 years of college still left. This was my second year. So I finished what I needed to, and this is when the Vedanta course was really on my mind. And before I knew, once I started getting into a career, it's like a freight train that won't stop. I knew I couldn't take a break somewhere, so I said before joining, let me join the Vedanta course and have the opportunity to study for 2 years and learn as much as I can about our Shastras, and then take what I can learn and apply it wherever I end up going. So I had no plans at that point. And Hariji has studied in Mumbai in Sandipani Sadhanalaya, and that was the original ashram that Puja Gurudev had established for training brahmacharis to come back into the world and serve in Chinmay Mission. I did not study there, but they have the same exact course in other locations, and I studied under Swami Prakashanji in Trinidad and Tobago. Sometimes when people get a hold of my bio, they're like, oh, you're from Trinidad. I'm like, no, I'm not from Trinidad. But it's because I spent 2 years in the Vedanta course with him. And he was another person that really inspired me. But before I get to that, Trinidad itself was a unique location to really experience this very culture and what it's capable of. Because if we look at Hinduism, up until that point, I knew Hinduism was only here in the US because my parents brought it, and it's actually from India, right? Those were the only two places I've seen Hinduism being practiced. And here in the US, our parents are holding on dearly to try to instill as much as they can, but with limited circumstances. Hardly any few temples, and I know in the 60s, 70s, 80s, when the first generation came in, they didn't even have Indian ingredients, let alone a temple. So with time, it was a different way we grew up. Now in Trinidad, that was not the circumstance. When we come to the US, especially our parents, they came because of choice. Either they wanted a better education through a degree or through job opportunity. I think there was a wave of IT influx and a lot of immigration that came through. So it's out of choice that we came in. Trinidad was not like that. In about 200 to 300 years ago, Indians were stolen from Bharat, brought as indentured slaves to Trinidad, and were put to work by the British. So they were still under colonization during that time. And it was only even after they got sort of freedom, they were still treated as indentured servitude, meaning they would have contracts for 5-6 years. Your entire family will work on this location, and afterwards you can do what you want. We got a little parcel of land, but that wasn't much. So that's an entirely different framework or circumstance that Hinduism was brought to Trinidad. And I saw a complete difference from that. Because they were under oppression, because they were not allowed to be who they are, stolen from their home, yet when I went there during my Vedanta course, Hinduism was so vibrant, I felt like I was in India. How? How is that even possible? And so we realized that the culture of Trinidadian Hindus is based off of Ramayana, Ramcharitmanas. You ask any elder, any youth, anyone who's there, and they have like music in their blood, they can recite Ramayana just like that. Because it was the one thing they were able to hold on to in order to stay connected to Hinduism and their culture and tradition. And because of the strength of needing to hold on, they were able to instill Hindu identity in an entire culture. Trinidad politically today, if you look at it, it is half Hindu Indians and half are African American of descent, because they were both population were brought as slaves. And yet they were able to hold on to their identity, and it feels like you're in India. I thought this is the strength of what it means to hold on to tradition. What we have done in India, in the US, puts me to shame. They have left India. We have left India. We came out of choice. They didn't come out of choice. And yet, why is it that they can hold on to their culture and identity so much stronger? Because it matters. So that was the one experience I had, not only from the Vedanta course, but to see that culture alive. It really added a layer of depth of this is what it means to be a Hindu. And along the way, I discovered what Swami Prakashanji had to do with all of this as well. Because the indentured slaves, they were limited and they held on to Ramayana, the meanings and depth and full scope of tradition was being lost anyways. So Swami Prakashanji, after having studied in Sandipani Sadhanalaya, came back to Trinidad, and he was monumental in the Hindu Renaissance that happened in Trinidad. He brought meaning, he brought the depth of understanding, and brought Bhagavad Gita along with Ramayana. So if you look at any of his lectures, you will see that if he's taking Bhagavad Gita, he's referencing Ramayana. If he takes Ramayana, he's referencing Bhagavad Gita. So he is a monumental figure when it comes to Hindu representation. And that's when truly the depth of what walking this path means, I saw in that. It is not just for my own personal sadhana that we take this path, but it is also for the service and upliftment of Hinduism for time is also part of the responsibility of being in this path. So seeing the gravity of what this takes and what it allows me to do, I thought Any other career I would have picked, I think would have fallen short in the meaningfulness of being here. So by the end of the Vedanta course, I said, I want to join. I want to continue studying under Swami Sarveshanji. So I moved from New Jersey, came to Dallas about 5 years ago now, 2019, and had a few obligations to finish before I could actually join. So I became a brahmachari in 2021. And so from there, I served last year in Frisco, and this year will be the first time I'm here in Saket. So in this long-winded, I guess, introduction of myself, really what I'm doing is giving my salutations to the gurus that have been in my life and what they have taught me and where they've brought me. So I didn't expect to cry. Anyways, so what I wanted to then talk about in, I guess, the next 5 minutes that I have, and I do apologize, I may go over time just a little bit, bear with me. We wanted to talk about 2 new opportunities that are coming up. Sunilji mentioned during our announcements that we have this amazing opportunity to have Puja Swamiji visit us. So as we know in Chinmay Mission, before I ask that, how many are new to Chinmay Mission here? First time coming in? Okay, so all are returning members, and I'm sure you've had exposure to Chinmay Mission. So we know that Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayananji started this organization, handed it to Guruji, Swami Tejomayananji, and that mantle was then passed to Mukhya Swamiji, Swami Swarupananji. So the gravitas of what he's gone through, what he's handling, and the perspective and experience he's had is an amazing opportunity to get to know. And he travels the world. There's, I think, over 500 centers throughout the world and 50 centers here in the US. So you can only imagine what his itinerary is like. I Googled it just the other day, and his 2 years are already booked. So it is a privilege that he's here. And as we know, the events are 22nd to 25th. It will be Jnana Yajna. So every night, he will be speaking on Bhagavan Shri Krishna's Leelas and learning from his Leela, The Way to Grow in Love, which is the title. And Jnana Yajna is the trademark, the signature of Chinmay Mission, so let us not lose touch with that tradition we always have. But at the same time, Swami Swarupananji has a very unique style that he also brings. He loves to interact with the congregation because honestly, being on the stage, there's a big distance, right? We see a vast number of faces, but we don't get to know anybody. So Swami Swarupananji really wants to connect and interact. So he has on that Saturday here in Saket, parenting workshop from like 9 to 11. And again, all these details are on that flyer, so please excuse me if I'm not remembering the details right off the top of my head. But this parenting workshop requires registration because it will help us plan not only the interaction, we have like not Zoom breakout rooms, but like physical breakout rooms where we'll get to really go through the exercises and do mananam on parenting. And he'll talk about parenting for both younger grades all the way up to high school. And finally, this is a rare like overlap occurrence that we will have someone as revered as Swami Swarupananji being present during an auspicious time of Krishna Janmashtami. So we will have the puja here as well at Saket, and he will be presiding in that puja as well. So it's a great opportunity to really feel that ambiance, really reconnect, re-inspire. These special events is meant to give that spark, that jump start to keep us on the path of sadhana. And the other thing is, how many parents here have children in high school? Like, my best students are always high school parents. I wanted to mention to you that Hariji and I are starting, we've had in our mind that J-Chicks, that's the name we've given to those that are 9th through 12th, junior chicks, junior Yuva Kendra. And we've noticed that as soon as they end 12th grade, they're like, I want nothing to do with Vihar, I don't want to do anything with Chinmay Mission, and we lose them for 2 years. And I know this because I myself was one of those. But we want to make sure that in that time of need, when they're going through such a turnover in their experience, it's a milestone in their life, that they always have some infrastructure that they can come back to when they have questions, when they need help, that they have a support system that's there for them. But that has to be built beforehand, and we can't catch them as they're leaving that door. They have to know that it's there and have confidence that we're there for them. So we've started a few different things for our high schoolers specifically. Hariji has started on Wednesday nights a Zoom satsang with the J-Chicks. Now, it's not just for CMDFW. He's in charge of J-Chick and Chick programming throughout the entire central zone. So Chicago is one of the biggest centers I can think of right now that's at the north, but all of the Chinmay Mission centers in the central zone, all of the Chicks and J-Chicks are going to be involved. So this is one unique opportunity that they can ask us questions that they may not want to ask teachers who are the other set of parents they encounter on the weekend. So they may, want to feel a little bit more free, and they can ask questions with Hariji. He will have a syllabus throughout the entire year. Don't worry, we made it mandatory that they have to have good attendance on Sundays for them to attend on Wednesday. So they're not missing out on both. This is a way for us to personally connect with them and keep that relationship going. Second thing is, we have these things called high school hangouts. We tried them out last year, and I think they were a great hit because we started off with 35 kids on our first high school hangout and ended up with like 70 kids by the end of it. And the style here is to take things that are popular and trending with them, find that connection, find that bridge, and then through that, get them to turn towards Vedanta. So one of the examples that I'll bring up from last year is lyrical analysis from Taylor Swift and Kendrick Lamar. I didn't even know who Kendrick Lamar was. He's a rapper, and Taylor Swift, I think they're all known as Swifties now. So we take something that they're really interested in, and the exercise was to understand how self-reflection works in their musical talents, but then turn them towards what is true self-reflection according to Self-Unfoldment, written by Puja Gurudev. So it was an interesting technique that we're trying, and it seems to be working, and it's a way for them to, again, reconnect, get engaged, and there are going to be 3 this semester, and the first one is on understanding Maya through Dune universe. Apparently there's this new movie and book series coming out called Dune, and it's like this, sci-fi where they go into another planet and there's a desert setting, and I think it's a social commentary on society and civilization. So Hariji has found a very interesting connection between analyzing those fictional movies and books and seeing the analysis of Maya concept in Vedanta. So these are really fun. This is like a casual hangout sessions with them. And finally, the last set of programs we have is camps, retreats. We have another ashram in Mangalam where they get to actually live there over that weekend. We have one during Labor Day weekend, and there's another one in March time. I think it's the 19th weekend. Where they get to spend time with us, but they also get to spend time with the chicks, the current chicks that are there. And I'm really proud to say that our chicks are now coming back as Balvira teachers too. So they are going to be running the workshops. Satsangs will be by us, but the rest of that schedule, yoga, sports, arts and crafts, and the workshops that they have are all designed, of course guided by us, but designed by the chicks, and they really get to bond with them as well. So hopefully these 3 things will help them stay connected with mission, and I wanted to bring this to your radar so that you can share this with your students. And we have a WhatsApp group, and if they can join that, it will just be us and the high schoolers, no parents allowed, no teachers allowed. So hopefully it opens up communication with them. And lastly, 2 minutes, I apologize, I have gone over time. A couple of rules: please be here early, 10 minutes or so. And please switch off all your cell phones. I had my own teacher have a cell phone ring this morning, and I'm like, please don't, we need to set the example. But again, no cell phones turned on. Kindergarten through 2nd grade. Are there any parents right now who have children in kindergarten through 2nd grade? Okay, real quick, you have to go pick up your kids from the class, so it is over time. So I will go ahead and dismiss, yeah. Yes, and that's the most important thing, that we must have a parent in the assembly for your child. If you know your other children and their parents are not here, please use peer pressure. Please ask them to come, because if something were to happen here, we need the parents to be able to help them. We had an incident last year where it was just a small cut and the parent wasn't here. We can't do anything. We cannot consent to any medical treatment. If something more serious happens, we are not capable of doing that. The parents have to be here. So for that sake, please pull your other Chinmay Mission co-parents that are supposed to be here and make sure that that's there. So kindergarten through second grade, I don't want to hold you back any longer, so I will dismiss those parents. Hariom. And for others, please make sure that if you do arrive late, there's a assembly hall downstairs for you to stay. And adult satsang is not just during this time. We also offer Devi group and study group throughout the week to continue satsang, because Bala Vihar is meant for the entire family. And finally, don't mess with any of the facility, even the kids, keep an eye on them. If they're thermostats, AV, whatever, please ask one of our volunteers. And lastly, if there are any other flyers that you would like posted here, we do not post anything outside of Chinmay Mission related posters, but if there's something you really feel needs to be posted here, please come check with me or Hariji, and we will have to look through it and see if it's appropriate or not, so don't just put up flyers. We will put up flyers. And the rest of these rules, please take a quick glance. It will be in our Bala Vihar folders on page 9 and 10. A soft copy is available on our website. I think there's downloads, and Bala Vihar folder will be in one of the drop downs. So let's run a tight ship so that everything goes smoothly and safely. That's why we have all of these rules. So I please ask you to review them. And with that, during this satsang, we will take on the topic of Sadhana Panchakam. Sadhana Panchakam by Adi Shankaracharya ji, listing 40 different sadhanas that we can take up, and we will investigate that throughout this entire year. So with that, let me close. We'll do Om Purnamadam. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Thank you so much for this opportunity.